I just wanted to hear your thoughts about why this is a good time for University of La Verne to be undertaking a civic action planning process.
Well, we've had some conversations, and we are kind of halfway through our Vision 2020 plan, and we'll be gearing up soon to start preparing for our next strategic plan. The Office of Civic and Community Engagement is 3 years old, so thinking about what we're going to continue to do and how this helps to foster not just the work that we're doing with students and faculty and community partners, but really how it can permeate across the institution.
At the University of La Verne, like most college campuses, we do a lot of important work, and sometimes that work is urgent work. But I would say that without having a planning process to bring together all the different elements of our university and our community in terms of our engaged learning and our engaged practices, without a plan, we're not going to go anywhere. There's just too many demands on our time, too many demands on the university. So the importance of having a tool, a planning guide, is really important for us to make sure that we keep maturing in our community engaged work.
And as you get started on this work, what are some of the assets either within your institution or those in communities that your work is connected to that are kind of starting points for you or building blocks as you go forward?
I think our biggest asset is our students and the fact that they come from the communities that we work with. So, they're engaging their sameness, they're engaging their own communities, they're engaging their leadership with places that they know and that they love. I'd say another asset is our values as an institution, our history and tradition, and the fact that we live in a very diverse region, and that we're a Hispanic serving institution, that we have a very diverse student body, that we're located across Southern California, and there is a caring environment at our institution that I think the students feel, our community partners feel, our faculty and staff feel. So I think all of those are assets that we leverage, and that we also try to be an asset to the community that they can mobilize in order to get the work done that they want to get done to move their missions forward and to support really the development of the region.
60% of the students at the University of La Verne are students of color, and you had asked why now, why at this time, and I think this is really critical at this time because we see how the world is more and more fractioned, and people are not coming together, people are siloed, and there's a lot of blame, and so if we can have our students engage in the community, our faculty, our staff, working together to solve problems together, I think hopefully we can bridge some of those divides of, we can come together without blame, and instead solve the problems of humanity, the things that right are in our back door that often we just kind of drive by real quick. And as Marisol said, I think our greatest asset are our students, who really show the world a different way to be. And
what are some of the issues that matter in the communities you're connected to that you feel like La Verne is particularly well equipped to kind of be a part of addressing?
Well, I think definitely education, particularly in the Inland Empire, and thinking about that region and more access to higher education. I think that's what our mission is around education. So I think particularly with education, we have a College of Education. It trains a lot of teachers, and being able to develop and train the best teachers that serve this region and that help students achieve their dreams and go on to higher ed. So I definitely think education is one of those social issues. One of the endeavors that we've been also working on is the issue of health and health access, particularly in the region. So thinking about, the healthcare needs of the region. And what I hope that we can also move more towards is issues around homelessness. So the housing crisis that we have in Southern California is a real one. Homelessness is a big issue that I think as a region we need to engage in some creative problem solving. And lastly, an area that I'd like to see us do more on, and something that I'm particularly concerned about is mass incarceration, another big issue in our region.
We talk a lot in terms of the context of Campus Compact about a commitment to democracy as the central kind of motivating influence in our work. How does that show up for you in your work? How does that fit into this larger landscape of kind of community engagement?
I mean, I think, obviously during election times it's heightened, but really this need for civil discourse is of particular concern right now. So I think the way it has been showing up, particularly this year, is, we have our students through our office and in coordination with our Democratic Student Organization, Republican Student Organization, and our student government organizing these cafecitos con políticos, so these coffee conversations with elected officials. And we're just starting off. Our first one is tomorrow, but there's some excitement. There's an idea of building upon this to have spaces where students and elected officials and community members can engage in these conversations and learn about those areas and have sort of democracy in action, right, through these conversations and through folks, and in particular students, seeing the central role that they play as an active citizen in their community. We just had a mock Politicon event last week where students are going to be watching the debate together. And so thinking about the ways that we can continue this political engagement in our campus as a regular part of the offerings that we do.
For our students, community engaged work, civic action is very empowering for them because half of our students are first generation college students. They don't have necessarily that sense of empowerment that I can do this, I can lead in action, I can organize people. And so we practice that. We practice that through community-based, community-engaged work, and it's transformational for our students to be able to do that. And they start at our university, creating action, mobilizing, and then they move out to the community, and then they go on from there. And so it's really an experiment, it's a laboratory for them to practice skills that are so important, and just their own sense of, I can do this, I belong, I'm part of this system, I'm part of the mechanism that creates change and empowers other people in the process. So I think for our students this is critical to be able to do this.
So if you look down that path, whatever length of time you want, 10 years, whatever, what would you like to be different about La Verne, about the communities that La Verne is connected to as a consequence of this work? What would be your best hopes for what success would look like in the impacts in the long term?
That's par for the course, that engaged work, community-based work, that's the way it's done. I remember 100 years ago when I was a grade school teacher, the honors children or the gifted children, they'd have special experiences and they'd go and experiment with things, or they'd go out on great field trips, and there was so much learning. And then the students who were labeled as less capable, they got ditto sheets. Well, that would be mind-numbing for anyone, even the most brilliant students. And so then we realized, wait a minute, why wouldn't we do this exciting, great stuff with everybody? That turns everybody on. And so that's what I would love to see at the University of La Verne. 10 years from now, community-based work is part of every major, is part of every course, because that's how you learn. Theory to practice, really engaging with a wicked problem that, hey, maybe it isn't so wicked, we can figure this out together. So that's what I'd like to see 10 years from now, that is the way we have a university with community-based learning.
I'd like to see it also permeate sort of throughout the institution. So most especially in our teaching and learning, but also in the way that we encourage our faculty and staff to do volunteer work or engage in the community or be active in the way that we recruit and retain students or faculty and staff. So really thinking about, like, how is this a part of what we do across the board, along with our other values? Just how is it a part of, in HR or in procurement or in enrollment management? Like, how is it a part of what we do? And I think most especially for faculty is like that work is recognized. They don't have to, it's not a side thing, and that's good that you do that, but it is, they are an engaged scholar. They're recognized as such in tenure and promotion, and that brings with it this understanding that they are, through their scholarship, through their research, teaching, and service, like living out our mission with our students and being examples of that for our students. And even from the board on up to our students, like, this is who we are.
So when you think about all those people in your campus community, one who I know quite well comes to mind, which is your president. And you happen to have a leader who is, I think, deeply committed to this work and also one of the most high energy people on the face of the earth. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how leadership is relevant to this work, how it affects what's the opportunities and those kinds of things that we'll learn.
Sure. I think leadership is essential to get anything done, and leadership is everywhere. I like to talk about roving leadership, and today I might have the ball and I'm the one who's trying to figure it out, but tomorrow you have the ball. And I think that we honor each other that way, that we realize that there are multiple leaders at the university. There's the president who's the model, and that's our first model, first among equals, but then we are all leaders too, because if we think that leaders positioned in here or there, then it really never does permeate the institution. So I think we get somebody to have the ball rolling. As you said, we have a great president who does believe in community-based learning, community-engaged work. But if there wasn't buy-in, it would just sit there on that person's desk. And so it's really important that every person sees themselves as part of the puzzle and that they're part of the driver, and just as important as any other participant in our system. I guess I'd like to make a plug for followership, because we talk about leadership all the time, and it's essential. We need to have some vision and direction, but followers are essential too. People who, okay, I get it, I get that vision, I believe in that vision, I'm going to be a part of making that happen. I take it just as seriously as the leader, the person out front. And I don't think we say enough about that, perhaps because humble seems to not be a very popular word either. But how do we get things done if we aren't humble, if we don't realize we're each going to learn from each other? And sometimes I'm a leader, sometimes you are, but there's a lot to learn here, and there's situations and issues enough for all of us to help make things better. So we have to have resources to do this work, so it's important for someone to say, we're going to invest in this. We're not just talking here, we're actually going to invest in this. So that's essential. But then everybody else needs to believe in that and own it, or this doesn't get done, So I think we're all followers and leaders at the same time, and have to appreciate both those roles.
Excellent. Well, thank you both.